Involvement with political causes came as a birthright to Justin Wilson and his brothers. Justin's father, Pat Wilson, was a giant in the Nashville business, philanthropy, and political communities. Pat's numerous political activities led him to become the finance chair of the Republican National Committee at the request of their young, fresh-faced chairman, George H.W. Bush in 1973, where he pioneered the new strategy of direct mail and small-dollar fundraising. His leadership played an integral role in building the Republican Party in Tennessee, with the victories of Baker, Brock, and Dunn, and his leadership cemented our party's future with the clean sweep victories in 1994. And with Pat Wilson's involvement came the work of his son, a young full-time volunteer, Justin Wilson. From standing at a poll for Governor Ronald Reagan while attending Stanford University, to working without pay for Brock's campaign, to organizing bus tours for Baker, Quillen, and Sundquist, he was right in the middle of history as Tennessee began to turn red. After graduating from Vanderbilt's law school in the mid-1970s and joining the Waller law firm, Wilson served as the treasurer of the Tennessee Republican Party, creating the Majority Tennessee PAC, focused solely on the distant goal of Republican control of the Tennessee State House. Year in and year out, Justin Wilson remained one of the biggest supporters, volunteers, and leaders of the Republican Party.
Back in 1996, I found myself a 22-year-old candidate who had just won a Republican primary for state representative. Now, after I won that primary, some folks in our party, some establishment types who maybe had supported my opponents in the primary, they thought, this 22-year-old kid can't win this race. And I found myself at that point in time as the nominee, just needing somebody to believe in me. About a week after the primary, I went to the mailbox and pulled an envelope out and opened it. And in that envelope was a $1,000 check from Pat Wilson, a $1,000 check from Blair Wilson, and a $1,000 check from the great Justin P. Wilson. The Wilsons, and Justin in particular, stepped up and believed in me, regardless of the fact that I was a young candidate, and I'm glad he did, because I went on to win that state representative seat because of his help and so many other people's help. Tennessee Republicans in this room, let me tell you, Justin P. Wilson and the Wilson family have been there for Republicans across the decades. Our legislature, our statewide delegation, our congressional delegation is what it is today because of the foundations laid years ago by Justin P. Wilson and the Wilson family, and I thank them for it every day.
In 1992, President George H.W. Bush nominated Wilson to the prestigious Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals. Unfortunately, his nomination died when the chairman of the Judicial Committee, Joe Biden, refused even to give Wilson a hearing. But Wilson was already on to the next campaign, helping his friend Don Sundquist run for governor, where he would be appointed to serve as the Commissioner of the Environment and Conservation. While Wilson was fighting for clean air and water, he was also fighting President Clinton's EPA and federal government overreach. Wilson received numerous awards, but he was the most proud of Tennessee's 51st State Park being named in his honor, the Justin P. Wilson Cumberland Trail, stretching from Kentucky to Signal Mountain and the Georgia border. Then again in 2009, Wilson was called back into service by the new Republican majority legislature and elected as the new Comptroller of the Treasury. As Tennessee's money cop, Wilson made sure that our state was financially stable and maintained our low tax and debt burden. He has been recognized with many awards from national organizations as he stepped down in 2020, leaving Tennessee taxpayers with a AAA bond rating and in perfect financial shape. Even after his retirement in 2021, Wilson still provides his leadership as the Comptroller Emeritus, imparting his wisdom to the next generation of public servants.
It was my privilege to serve as Deputy Comptroller to then Comptroller Justin P. Wilson for 10 years. And when the Tennessee General Assembly chose to elect me as Comptroller in January of 2021, the first thing I did was install in my Capitol office, right above the door before I walk out into the highway, a large sign. And that sign says, WWJPWD ? Of course, that stands for What Would Justin P. Wilson Do? Because when I walk out of my office into the hall of the Capitol and into the halls of the General Assembly, I want to think about acting like Justin P. Wilson. Because if I do, I know that I will be acting with integrity, I will be acting with independence, I will be acting with common sense and compassion, and I will be acting in a way so as to work to make government work better. That is what Justin P. Wilson is about, and that is why we are all successful when we choose to ask ourselves, what would Justin P. Wilson do?
Justin Wilson exemplifies the best of our state and the Republican Party, a life of selfless service to others and causes that have truly created a lasting legacy. Tennessee owes you and your wife, Barbara, and your family a tremendous thank you for making the sacrifice to secure Tennessee's future greatness.